Before history crowned her a symbol of rebellion, before her face became the cool, sharp silhouette of the 1920s, Louise Brooks was simply a woman who disappeared. One day she was Hollywood's most intoxicating promise, the girl with the black glass bob and the eyes that held entire storms. And then, almost without warning, she slipped out of the frame, vanished, forgotten, buried beneath the dust of a town that once worshipped her. Decades later, a researcher followed a trail of faded letters and brittle photographs, each one whispering the story Hollywood tried so hard to erase. What he found was not a saint, not a sinner, but a woman carved from contradictions, fierce and fragile, reckless and principled, daring enough to burn her own future just to stay free. This is the tale hidden behind the iconic haircut, the myth, the tragedy. A life that glittered under stage lights, then collapsed into silence. A life that began far from any studio lot, in a quiet Kansas town, long before the world learned her name. She came into the world on November 14, 1906, in Cherryvale, Kansas, a place so still it felt suspended in time. Her father, Leonard, hid inside books more easily than inside conversations, while her mother, Myra, lived in music, believing beauty was the only true resistance against boredom. Between them, Louise grew like a spark in a room full of dust, restless, curious, already searching for an exit. But the moment that shaped her most arrived long before applause or studio contracts. At just 9 years old, she encountered the kind of darkness no child should ever know. A neighbor, a man trusted by everyone, left her with a secret wound that she would never entirely speak aloud. Louise carried it quietly, the way one carries a fracture that never mends, only teaches you how to walk differently. From that day on, she learned that gentleness could be a mask and warmth could hide a blade. Her mother tried to soothe her with piano melodies, but even those soft notes could not erase the lesson. Love was never guaranteed to be safe. That understanding would follow her into every dressing room, every affair, every gamble she ever took. It was a scar the world never saw, not until the camera captured it years later in her eyes. Dance became the only place where her body felt like it belonged to her again. At 11, Louise stepped onto the stage of the local opera house, eyes bright as open flame, movements fluid enough to silence a room. She didn't simply dance, she spoke without sound, telling stories with the tilt of a wrist, the arc of a leap. By the end of that night, the audience understood what her mother already knew. The girl was meant for more than Kansas. At 15, she boarded a train to New York, carrying nothing but ambition and a hunger to reinvent herself. The city swallowed people whole, but it seemed to sharpen Louise. She joined the Denishon Dance Company, becoming a rising star under the watchful eyes of Ted Shawn and Ruth St. Denis. But brilliance often attracts friction. Ruth, threatened by the young dancer's independence, saw arrogance where others saw fire. One rehearsal ended everything. A public dismissal, cold and merciless. Louise walked out with humiliation burning under her skin, yet she refused to break. She pivoted to Broadway, pouring every wound, every dream into the stage. Audiences felt the force of her fury and grace, and by 1925, she stood under the glowing lights of the Ziegfeld Follies, transformed from a small-town girl into a magnetic, modern icon. Hollywood noticed, and it was already preparing to claim her. Hollywood approached her like a seduction. Paramount producer Walter Wanger was the first to fall under her spell, captivated not just by her beauty, but by that unreadable gaze that dared him to guess what she was thinking. Their affair began in shadows, a dangerous entanglement Louise knew she shouldn't touch, yet couldn't resist. In the end, the studio handed her a 5-year contract, the kind of opportunity actresses prayed for. To everyone else, it looked like destiny. To Louise, it felt like another door to test, maybe break. But if she believed Hollywood would protect her, she learned otherwise quickly. At 18, she caught the eye of Charlie Chaplin, the most powerful man in cinema. Their brief summer together burned hot, a collision of genius and youth, but it left a mark she never fully shook. When he drifted away, she discovered how easily the industry's greatest men could rewrite a woman's life, leaving her with the ache while they walked on unscathed. Still, fame grew around her. In A Girl in Every Port, she wasn't acting, she was sculpting a new American woman. That black bob that sliced the air, those cool lips curved in defiance, she launched a fashion revolution without ever trying. Women across the country copied her. Men projected fantasies onto her. Hollywood believed it owned her. Louise remained unconvinced. She had survived too much to surrender now. Marriage, for Louise, was never a sanctuary, only another room with locked windows. In 1926, she wed director Eddie Sutherland, but the vows tightened around her like velvet restraints. Within a year, she slipped into the arms of George Marshall, a charming millionaire whose attention felt thrilling, dangerous, and briefly irresistible. Their affair ignited Hollywood gossip columns, and when she finally walked out on Sutherland, he responded with desperation so deep it nearly cost him his life. Louise kept moving, but something inside her fractured. Then 1928 arrived, the year that crowned her and cursed her. While filming Beggars of Life, she tasted the brutality beneath Hollywood's glamour. A vicious lie spread through the studios that she carried a disease and had passed it to Jack Pickford. It wasn't true, but truth never stood a chance against rumor. Overnight, party doors shut, contracts wavered, and her name slipped into whispers. On set, director William Wellman pushed her past the edge, forcing her onto a moving train for a stunt that could have killed her. The message was clear. Talent meant nothing in a town that thrived on control. Loneliness crept in, and she chased distraction in reckless romances. Then came Pepe Letterer, wild, tender, fearless. With Pepe, Louise tasted a forbidden kind of freedom, a love the world refused to understand. When powerful men intervened and Pepe's life shattered, Louise carried the guilt like a stone in her chest.
It was then she realized Hollywood would never love her back. When Paramount refused to raise her salary in 1929, Louise didn't plead or negotiate. She simply smirked, turned her back on Hollywood, and boarded a ship to Europe. To many, it looked like madness. Who abandons fame at its peak? But Louise wasn't chasing stardom. She was chasing truth, the kind she had never found under studio chandeliers. Berlin greeted her with jazz drifting through smoky streets and lights that glowed like molten gold. Here, she wasn't a scandal or a problem to be managed. She was an artist. And director G.W. Pabst saw what America never had: the fractures beneath her beauty, the volatility, the heartbreaking tenderness. He cast her in Pandora's box, not for her face, but for her soul. As Lulu, she didn't act, she opened. Every gesture, every flicker of her eyes carried the weight of her past. Audiences of the time weren't ready, but history was. Pabst called her a woman who lived rather than performed, and Diary of a Lost Girl only proved him right. But triumph exhausted her. Pabst begged her to stay, warning that Hollywood would crush her spirit if she returned. Louise laughed, certain she could outrun her own self-destruction. She was wrong. Back in America, talkies had taken over. When she refused to record dialogue for a film, the studio blacklisted her. In one decision, she went from international icon to forgotten rebel. Yet even stripped of power, she refused to bend. If Hollywood wanted her silence, she would give it, on her own terms. The fall was not sudden, it was a slow dimming, like stage lights cooling after the final bow. Louise drifted through the 1930s, taking nightclub jobs to survive, her eyes still arresting under the spotlight, but no longer reflecting its glow. Hollywood had moved on, and when she briefly returned to the screen in 1938 for Overland Stage Raiders, she cut off the iconic bob that once defined an era. It didn't matter. The film sank without a ripple, and she walked away for good. The years that followed were quiet, almost eerily so. Wichita, New York, cities she passed through like a ghost, with no steady work, few friends, and little money. People whispered about her in her hometown, pitying the woman who had once mesmerized the world. But Louise, stripped of fame, began searching for something far more elusive: herself. She wrote. Slowly, defiantly, she turned her memories into essays, not to beg for sympathy, but to reclaim the narrative no studio had ever let her own. In her pages, readers discovered not a fallen star, but a woman who lived wildly, recklessly, and unapologetically. A woman who refused to belong to anyone, even if it meant living alone. History eventually circled back. Critics uncovered her films, stunned by the honesty she had once bled onto the screen. The world saw her again, not as a cautionary tale, but as a pioneer. Louise Brooks did not vanish. She simply stepped out of the light before anyone could dim it for her.